Okay.
Good.
All right. Practice guide. Remember, we're going to do a lot of this together in class for the first test. Later tests, like this is something you're going to fill out on your own as we go through the chapters. And then you turn it in at the end. The reason why I give this out is to alleviate your stress what the test is going to be. This is the exact same size as your actual test. It's 9 questions. All I did was go in your book, and I picked a different problem from the pages we did. These are all homework problems, by the way. So if you don't recognize them, I don't know who did your homework, because they're all your homework problems. That's all I did. Same with the test. I picked a homework problem, put it on there. I just replaced these numbers. That's really all I did. Okay? So it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to take the attendance real quick, and then we're going to get started. I think I'm missing one person.
I got a job.
Good job, congrats.
I have to pass the town fair at Miley.
Way zoomed in.
Good for you.
I'm so excited when you
Congrats. All right. Okay. Hey, here we go. Let's walk through all the steps. Most of you can probably do this pretty much on your own. Here's my goal today. My goal is to go through the first page today, do second page on Thursday, and then take test Friday. Now, the reason I want to do that is that you have homework that's due on Thursday. I know some of you have already got it done because it was pretty straightforward, but if you haven't, today after we're done with this first half, it's a nice thing to get working on that and get it done wrapped up. Today I'll probably send an email out to each of you if you have missing work for me, just to warn you like, hey, get it turned in, I can get it graded, or if you want to make fixes and stuff, I'll do that and I'll hand back some stuff on Thursday because I know some people did turn in homework yesterday. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. I think most of you are keeping up on homework pretty well. But yeah, let's go through this. Make sure you're filling it out. I do check them for accuracy. So, if you have a calculator in front of you. All right, first one, wages for the following. If you go over 40 hours, I'll give you warnings. I think the next question went over 40, so I always give you warnings what you need to do. Okay? So, 38 hours a week. You're going to take your 756. This is per hour. You're going to multiply by how many hours you have. And what will happen, the labels will cancel out, and you'll be left with price. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to multiply the two things together. Okay? So, it's going to be 756, and we're going to multiply by the 38. This will give us our total for what you should make in that time period. Okay? Just thinking about this, probably over 200 something.
287.
Say it again?
287.
387. Pretty big. 382?
287.
Oh, 287. Thank you. I don't know if the numbers here. All right, 287. That was in the ballpark. How I kind of guesstimated in my head, I took 3 times 7. I'm in the 200s probably. I just take the front numbers. But you have to actually multiply, write down that number. Make sure you're giving me as many numbers as possible. Don't go past the pennies, two decimal places, the 100th spot. Just give me, so if you need to round, just round up. You shouldn't need to because I'm not going to give you any weird numbers for that. Questions on how to do the first one. Now, the hints on test day will not be there. So, if it says, multiply, that won't be on the test on test day. You just need to know what you need to do with the numbers. Got it? If it goes over 40 hours, like for overtime, I think some of the later questions do. I will always provide you kind of a hint and tip on those. If it goes over 40, like, hey, Sundays are double time, or, if you're over 40, it's time and a half, that type of thing to warn you, like, what I'm expecting you to be able to do. Okay, next. Let's go to the second problem. Okay, and again, I just want to go through the first page. I want to keep this pretty short and pretty simple today. What is there, 4 or 5 problems on the first page? Yeah, pretty easy. Okay, second page, or second problem, sorry. Now, I want to figure out what you're going to make annually, per year. Now, if it does do one of those questions where it says, I want to figure out paid like bi-weekly, or what your annual pay is bi-weekly or something, I will provide you that chart. The chart will be on one of the boards. Like on test day, I might just have that chart up in front of you guys so you know what the numbers are. Okay? But on this one, I do have a hint. And on test day, if I switch this up, like I'm expecting you to work 47 weeks out of the year, I'll put 47 there. Like on the homework that we did, I expect you to always use 52 for how many weeks you worked. Okay? But I want to know your total annual. So on this particular problem, you're going to take your 975 you're gonna take it times your 40-hour work week, so that's, you're working that many hours that first week, and then you're gonna multiply by how many weeks a year that you're gonna work, and I will provide you that number. So this particular person is working 50 weeks out of the year. They get a 2-week vacation time. Because there's 52 weeks total in a year. So you can multiply these out and you find your total. Okay, multiply them, give it a number, it's pretty straightforward. I'm expecting this thing to be, I don't know, 800 maybe, somewhere in that range? I have no idea. Ballpark. What is it?
19,500.
19,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must have carried it way wrong. Alright. I did not multiply that right in my head. Alright. Questions, comments about the process of multiplying?
I do.
Yes.
Do you take wages out?
Nope, you don't have to worry about any deductions. If there's a deduction type of problem, it's a good question. I will warn you what I want you to take out. So if I want you to take out taxes, I might say take out 33% for taxes. You have to multiply by 0.33 and subtract that out. So if you multiply this total, your 19,000 I guess, by 0.33, that's what your taxes are, and you'll have to subtract it out later. Okay, but I'm not going to tell you that, and if it is on the test, I will clearly warn you. Okay, let's go to the third problem now. Because again, I'm saying that I want to keep this pretty short and sweet today. Your test's coming up, and I want to give you time where you can actually study and get some homework done. Number 3. I give you a hint, you can use military time. Somebody in here was doing that on homework day. They like to use military time, like add 12 to stuff. And I'll show you how to do that. I always recommended that you change the noon to like 0 o'clock, that type of thing, and that's for the afternoon stuff. But let me talk about this. This problem asks you to figure out how many total hours you worked in this day. You can be that person that counts with your fingers. I'm fine with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do want to see evidence of what you did. So if you're counting with your fingers, you better be saying like, you better be drawing a picture of you counting fingers. So there's 1, there's 2. You better be showing me how you're coming up with the random numbers you're coming up with. Okay? That's a really bad figure. Okay? Alright. Now,
Got 2 more.
what I recommend, you do this. You take whatever time you're out, as long as you're closest to noon. Take the time that you're out and take that, put that on the top and subtract the other one. Ooh, that's 80. Okay, cool. Okay, like that. So you're gonna subtract the 8 o'clock. That's what I recommend. Now, if you're in the afternoon, it's different.
Use the 540.
You gotta put the 540 on top. You gotta put the later time on the top. Okay, and that's the one I gotta show you. Now, when you subtract, you gotta make sure the bottom number is bigger than the top. If it's not, you have to borrow. If you ever had to borrow from the hours,
60.
you have to put 60 minutes on the next spot. You don't put a 1, you put a 60 when you carry it over. But then when you go to minutes, then you can carry over a 1. But in this case, I don't need to. I think on the next one I do have to.
You do. No, you don't.
No, I won't. I'll do an example here where you have to do actually borrow.
No, you don't.
But if you subtract 0, you're going to subtract the 3 minus 0 is 3. Subtract 11 minus 8, you get 3. So in the morning, you work 3 hours and 30 minutes. Okay, so that's not bad. Now, if the bottom number was bigger, let's say it was 840. And again, this is not your problem. Let's say it was 840 on your problem. Okay, well, now we have a problem. We can't subtract, right? The 0 is fine, but I can't subtract 3 minus 4. So you have to borrow from the 11, making that a 10, and add 60 to this. You're going to add a 6, because 60 minutes get added on, because you borrowed from an hour 60 minutes. So when you make this will actually be a 9 now. 6 plus 3. And now you can subtract and say that's 50 minutes, and this is a 2. So if you ever have to borrow, you always have to carry over 6 from the 60 minutes. Okay, does that make sense, like if you have to borrow? Is there any questions on that? Let's do the afternoon now. There's 2 ways to do the afternoon.
540 on top.
Yeah, 540 on the top. You can put the 540 and then subtract from there. So 540, and you're going to subtract the 1230. Now this is what I warned you of. If one of your times is noon, like the 1230 or 1215 or 1205, what I always told you to do is make the 12 o'clock, make it 0 o'clock, like it's 0 on a clock. That's military time, kind of thing, 0, right? Make it a 0 and then subtract it. You can do that at noon. Or, my hint, is you can use military time where the afternoon, 5 o'clock, you can make that 17 by adding a 12 to it. Because that's how military time works. You could do this. you could add the 12 to the 540 and say that's 1740. Because that's what military time is. They just add 12 for the afternoon times. So instead of saying 1 o'clock, they say 1300 because they added 12 to it. That way it's a 24 o'clock for them. They're just counting
Truck
24s.
on my truck.
That's another way you can do it. You can subtract, and that would be an easy way to do it. I personally just subtract 12 from the noon and just do the normal math when I subtract. 0 minus 0, 4 minus 3, 5 minus 0, there's your time in the afternoon.
And then you get 8 hours of 40 minutes.
Yeah, and then you have to add those total to find your total time worked. Because that was, the morning was in red, the afternoon was in blue, you add them up, you get 840. Questions at all about that? Does anyone need me to go through another example of like borrowing? Now remember, if you borrow for the minutes, because maybe I give you some weird random time, and I have something like this, and that's your times, and I'm asking you to subtract the weird times. So you're gonna have to borrow, because I need to make sure I can subtract the 1 and the 3. So I'll make that a 7, and I'm gonna add a 6 to this, making that a 7. So 6 and 1 now makes 7 here. But then I'm gonna have to borrow again from the 7, making that a 6, and put a 1 here. Because you have to carry over a 1 for the next. If you borrow to the minutes, you have to put a 1, but if you borrow from the hours, you put a 6. So 17 minus 9 is 8. 6 minus 3 is 3, and 7 minus 6 is 1, so it's an hour 38. That is probably the most challenging type of question I saw in the book, where they had you borrow minutes as well, because they just give you random times. Is there any questions with borrowing from the minutes? Okay, remember you still have to add the total there on those two. All right, last question of the day, then you'll have time to work on this, you'll have time to work on homework if you owe me anything, or if you owe other people stuff. Okay, number 4, what are we at? Wait here.
I do this today, so.
All right,
No.
okay, this one has overtime. So if there's ever an overtime problem, I will clearly warn you how I want you to handle it. So like on this one, this person is working 43 hours. So I do want to consider that if you go over your normal overtime for like normal like Monday to Saturday kind of thing, you have to use time and a half for pay. And if you work on a Sunday or holiday, like in this case they're working on a Sunday for a little while, you have to use double pay, double time pay. So I clearly warn you if you go overtimes, especially in like that first question as well. First question could have overtime as well, and I'll clearly warn you of it. So in this one, you're working 43 hours. That means 40 hours is normal, 3 hours is overtime, and then there's 6 hours on Sunday. Now why I separated these is because you need to make sure that the pay is different. Because, if you're working a normal 40-hour week, that means you're working at $10.42.
1563.
So, pretty big number, right? If you're working the 3 hours overtime, you have to take the 10 times time and a half. So you have to take 10.42, you have to multiply by a 1.5, that's time and a half to figure out what your rate is, then you can take it times the 3.
1563.
So, anyone know what is 10?
1563.
1563? So this is time and a half. And then you'll have to multiply on your 3 hours. Because you have to figure out that new pay scale when you're working overtime.
4689.
Yeah, that seems about right. Pretty big. Okay? And then the last one is double time pay. Well, that's where I have to take the 10.42 and double it. 10.42, we have to double it first, so that's 20.84. Double your pay, and we're gonna have to take double pay times 6 hours, which is like $120 or something like that.
2504.
Yeah, so big, you got big numbers. Then you're gonna have to add total, because it does wanna know the total wages you computed. So just be ready for something. If there's any weird issue, like where they give you like 54 hours and maybe the story problem says, of that 54, 6 were overtime and 10 were on holiday pay, you have to subtract those hours out of the 54. And I'll kind of warn you on test day, like, hey, you need to subtract these numbers to figure out what your normal work hours were, because some of these hours were overtime. So if there's ever a hint for overtime, I will have this, even though it's on the test, you do need to know if it's time and a half or if it's double time. And what days of the week it is. Some businesses are different. Some businesses don't pay time and a half on a Sunday, they pay it on a Saturday, or just only holidays. So it depends on where you work. Okay, questions at all about the practice guide? Now, hopefully you've been filling those out. I will expect you to turn this in on Friday when we take our test. Filled out, completed. On Thursday, we'll do the second half, the second page. You've got to come in here with the right frame of mind on Thursday that we're going to finish that second half, and then you're going to be studying and ready to go for the test on Friday. My test, unless you have accommodations, is a one-day test. You take it, you're done, it's 9 questions, you should be fine. Okay, I don't give 2 for these, they're pretty straightforward. Okay? Alright. Questions, comments about anything we've done? We're going to turn on the lights.
No.
Yep. So I'm going to turn on the lights, and then you guys can work on wherever you need to. Remember, homework is due this Thursday. Hopefully you're working on that.
Do you mind if I look at the last one?
Okay.
Mr. Ward, may I go use the restroom?
No.
Do you mind what the last one with my apple?
Hey, now. I'm swinging.
285. 285. I can't even steer it, so it's 290. 307. 345. Oh, that was it. I would have been launched out of the car.
Mr. Warren.
Yes.
Look at that side car. So perfect. You can't get there without it. I don't know how you get out of here. You watch
Alright, what do you got? Okay. You take the percentage, you have to move the decimal.
my way.
He did.
Take the times your sales, so like the 6.6%, you have to move the decimal.
Our,
Multiply that number
Tommy
on
Buchanan in Iowa by Waterloo for $1,800.
0.0.
Think I'm gonna pull a plug on it.
0. So yeah, so 2 decimal places over there.
I think I'm 5.
And then you're gonna multiply that on this, so that's what your commission is. What you're gonna make on that object, is the cash you get personally. And then you can test your bonus.
I'm gonna go back up there.
Yeah. You made, I wanna go on this one.
About 42 grand, 44 grand, 44 grand for the object that you're selling. That's your cash, like 44 grand. And then your so that's your
What was that?
wage now. But you're doing sales. You have to add that to your sales.
The one thing I don't like about this truck is it's a long box. I want a short box.
And it's gonna tell you what your hourly rate is, so you don't calculate that, and then add it to
I
your.
don't know, but this thing is like super long.
So, that probably is a big factor.
It's like a short box. Look way better. But what I'll probably end up doing is just taking all this off, put it on my frame. Because this is only a 2.
It's not 6 foot long.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think this looks too long.
Ow.
I'm gonna send it off.
It's an 8-foot bed.
Yes.
But really, it's actually not too bad a shape. Doesn't have a whole lot of rust on it.
Oh,
Yeah, this one.
$1,800. Yeah. Got a good old 360 in it with 86,000 miles.
86.
Is this for something? Just personal collection?
Yeah.
No, I don't know if you're supposed to be on that. Let's get off that website. At home, you could probably look at it, but I don't think you're supposed to be on that at school. Just saying. Yes.
I have a question.
What was you looking at?
After I get 8 guns, I want to see about phone.
Nick Hughes.
So what I'll do about phone.
Look it up on Google Images.
Probably go right after class.
I have athletic clothes, so we'll be able to do that in there.
Touch that windows.
Yeah, it's the one in Waterloo.
I get my new checked out of
What?
It's actually not in too bad a shape.
Mhm.
Paint job and,
I had the paint job.
no, I'm repainted for sure.
Fine.
I don't like it.
Man, does it look cool? I already painted black, so darken that up a little bit.
I like the orange.
Pop that orange piece, baby.
Get a big old lift kit, put her up on like 35.
Yeah, I call you Diesel Brothers.
60 minutes.
Diesel bro, no, they put her up on like
But I don't know
60.
the version
Put
one.
another axle in the back.
There's
too.
gotta be like.
Yeah, twin axles, you know, they gotta drive with both the axles slanted or whatever that is. I forgot what
Connor's
it is.
what we on top.
Get you like 4-wheel steer.
And-
Yeah. What?
Right, are you converting into miles per hour?
Get it, what do you want?
I'm converting in, yeah.
Oh, get out.
So then you'll have miles on the top, kilometers on the bottom. There has to be some conversion there. Do you have that chart from yesterday that you had?
Dang.
Because it was on the top of that worksheet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That you had? That feels nice.
I know, it's about time it gets cold in here.
That's not off.